Hi everyone, I'm just waiting a few more minutes as some people are still connecting, and then we'll get started. All right, let's get started. So this call is recorded, so if need be, you can always watch it later. But let me introduce myself first. So hi everyone, I'm Magali. I'm one of the technical CSMs at Port, and today I will be walking through the ROI experience at Port. So today is meant to be a technical session. So I will first show you the overview of what it looks like. Um, s- so how you can measure the ROI that you get from actions, how you can set it up once it's been set up in your environment. And then after that, we'll just go into more and more and more details. So first off, let's do a demo and then let's just take it from there. Right, so I'm going to share my screen with you. And what I'm going to share is an environment that you should all have access to. If you don't, ask your port contact, and they should happily just give you access to it. But let me first give you a little bit more background about what this is. So, in port, as you know, you have the self-service, which is where people can come and run actions so that they have full autonomy. You have the catalog, which is where people can have access to pages and then consult what they need to consult. And then you have scorecards. So when people set up a portal, a tendency that we can have is let's just see what we can find and plug everything into the portal and then see what happens from there. And then maybe run a few surveys, see if people are are happy or not with the portal. But then doing this, it can be hard to track actually how much value you got from a portal. And specifically, when it comes to self-service actions, how much value you got from each of these runs. So you can say we ran 50 actions this week, we ran 100, we ran 200, but what does that mean at the end of the day? That is a little bit hard to answer. So for this, we have created an experience that you can use in this environment. So this environment, let's just see it as a demo environment specifically for how to measure the ROI of actions. You'll be able to access it, and then you'd be able to copy paste it and recreate that in your environment. But it all comes down to the fact that Port is a very flexible tool. So what new joiners in Port don't necessarily realize is, yes, you have the integrations, and yes, you can ingest data from various systems, but one thing that is not always obvious at the start is actually with a blueprint, you can create absolutely everything that you want. And by taking advantage of that, you then realize, hey, I can actually, when I have an action run, I can actually represent that as a blueprint. And to me, an action should have a category, it should have a criticality maybe, and I can represent that fully with a blueprint. Same with the related items. Now, let me just demo you what you can do with that information. So The action experience starts with a simple action called set up new action experience. And the idea from this is if you have existing actions, but you haven't really measured what savings you're expecting to get from them, you can use that action to sort of create a whole experience around that so that you will be able to measure for each run the savings that you're making. Or you can also run that new action experience at the very beginning, even without having a self-service action, and that can be useful in contexts where you want all of your self-service actions to be created in a standardized manner. So in my case, if I run the setup new action experience, what will the typical action that will actually be created will always include the current user that is running the action. So let me just demo you what that looks like. So I'm going to click on Create to set up a new action experience. Here, I can either use an action that already exists and then it will sort of set up the values around it, or I can just create a new action, my new action, for example. I can assign a category to it. The reason being when you track the ROI for actions, you don't normally just have one action in a specific category. You would have several. So let's say that my action is related to the onboarding part. And then here is the important part. So how am I going to measure the ROI for that action? Imagine you had something like 50 actions in your backlog and you didn't know how to prioritize them. Then what would you do next? You would ask, okay, well, how much challenge does this create that this specific part is not available for the end users? Is it that they have to wait a long time for anything to get done? Or is it that they don't have to wait a long time, but the team that then has to process their request is wasting a lot of time? So you take these measurements and then you 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 try to prioritize this way. And normally at that stage, when you have decided to implement an action, you should have an idea of how long it was taking before it was implementing for the average action to be acted on, and how much time it was taking before for the actual team to implement the action to actually implement it. So that's why here we have two fields. One field being the lead time before, and that would be, for example, if I wanted to request access to, let's say, an S3 bucket before, um, maybe giving the access itself was very fast for the people making um, actually giving me the access. But because my ticket was pending for a long time and a long time and a long time, and maybe they did have an SLA, maybe they didn't. But in general, um, we find that our tickets are just on hold for a really long time. So um, you should be able to know how long it takes in general for something to get acted on. If not, you can always maybe use the SLA as a starting point. But let's say, for example, um, it was taking me 48 hours, so 2 days for someone to look at my request and get it done. But actually, once they were processing it on their end, it was only taking them half an hour. So this way you have two measurements. You have the measurements for the end user, which is um, how much time you save by not waiting. And you also have the measurement from the people who are implementing these requests. It could be that they're implementing a lot of requests very fast, or it could be that you ask them to set up an environment and it takes them the whole week. So two different metrics. Now I'm going to click create on that. It's just going to call a GitHub action. You can have that as a GitHub action. You can have that as a script. You can there are various ways you can implement that, but if you want to just recreate this experience, we have the scripts here on port experimental. And basically, if you want to have exactly what I have, you can just copy that repo, and of course use your own client ID and secret, and that will set it up for you the same way as it does for me. Okay, so I see that it has checked if the action exists. It didn't exist because I didn't pre-create it. So then it created it as a placeholder with um, the standardized way that I like. So in my case, that means just adding the user that is making the run. And then it's checking if the automation for it exists. It doesn't, so it's created it. It's checking if it's created it fine, which it did, and then it's creating the associated entity. And the entity here is just the action card that will gather the data now from all of the action runs of that action that I have just set up. So now let's just go back to home so I can show you what it looks like. So an action card, let's take this one, is the entity that represents a specific action, and that is created automatically by this setup. And you can see for each action, you have access to all of the runs over time. You can access to you have access to your success rate. You have access to your latest runs. And so on. You could even consider putting some scorecards in your actions. Say if the criticality is high, then maybe it should happen quite fast. And then you can also track the failure rate. In this case, it's 100%. So not too good. And then you can also have an action dashboard that will then represent all of the actions you have. And remember at the beginning when I created the action, I didn't just create them in isolation. I made sure to associate a category for all of them, which makes the navigation then much simpler. So let's just take another one. Which one do I want? Monitoring, security and access, deployment. Um, I just have one extra one that I wanted to do. Onboarding and others. Yeah, onboarding, this is my new action. So this one doesn't have any run. And then you can see for each of them the total lead time savings because it's calculated them. And let's just go with that one. For example, so you can see this one has something a bit more interesting. So it has 5 success, 1 failure, and 1 in progress, and so on. And you can see the runs over time. And again, you can see the savings. So this one, it says that you've saved 39 hours in total. That's the total savings time. If you also wanted to check how much time you've saved in cycle time, you can also do that. Cycle time savings. And then here I would just do the same thing, but instead just get the total cycle time saving, that's it. And here you can put a condition. So if it's under, I don't know, actually, if it's under 10 hours, then it's okay, but it's not great. Maybe if I've saved over 10 hours, then I can say that I'm happy. And then you can just color code it. Makes sense. Let's go with that. Okay, so it's put okay. So you can see here the two numbers. So 39 doing great in total waiting time, but it looks like the actual implementation didn't take too long because, well, creating a database user, is only a few clicks. So the challenge here was mostly for the people waiting. And then again, the failure rate, you can see, okay, the weekly failure rate, not good. The overall failure rate seems to be the same because it was all in the same week. And then you can also see the progress over time. So the way this works is each action is represented as a blueprint, which means that you can um, get all of the information that you've entered before is here, and based on that, you can calculate based on the number of the runs, what is your weekly failure rate, what is your monthly failure rate, how many failed runs you had, how many runs you had this week, this month. That's up to you. How many time did it take to approve? If that's relevant for that. Is there any specific team that owns that action in case I had feedback or it doesn't work like I want? And is there any category associated to that? And because you have the category, you have another level, which is I can see the views for at the action level. I can see what was my failure rate and how many were successful. But I can also do the same on the category. So now this is grouping every action on this category. I can see that there's one that is still waiting for approval, one that is in progress, and the rest is failure and success. And I could see over time that the action runs are gradually going up. So that's probably a good thing. It means that that category is being used. And I can see across that category, the total save time is potentially a certain number of hours. And I can see also the latest run that I have for that category. So you have seen now the view at the category level. You have seen the view at the action level. Now let's take it even a bit higher and just get the highest level, which would be the total of all actions. So here you can have a high level dashboard, which is the ROI, where I just get the sum of every hours that I've saved across every action, across every category. Only the successful ones, of course. Same with the cycle time. And the idea is this is updated in real time, so you don't have to, at the end of the quarter, just calculate. Um, and you can see it progress as well. And you can see also if you have some actions that require approval, it may be worth tracking also how long these actions spend in approval, because it could be that you think you think you've simplified the process, but actually, if people still have to wait 2 days for someone to approve, you're bringing the same pain to a different system. Um, all right, and you can access this and read it, but the idea is pretty simple. Is the runs each have data. They calculate from the action that they're associated to how much savings each of them have. On the action level, we then aggregate all of the values that the runs brought up, and so on. And then you can have it a level higher, which is at the category level, and you can have it at the level higher, which is for the whole organization. Now, let's make it even more complicated. And now let me show you also what you can do. So you can, when you have an action run, say that you can remember who ran it. And what it means is you can see here I have the high level with everything. So I know how many categories like I can see the split. I can see security management seems to be the most popular category for my actions. So if I've been investing a lot in monitoring and alerting, maybe I should ask myself questions. And then you can see here which of the actions have been the most popular. But then what can be useful as well is if you're working across different groups and you're working across different teams, you may also want to know the split. So here you can see that the engineering group has run 20 actions and the product group only ran 3. So maybe there is a conversation that needs to happen to understand why the product group isn't running as many actions. And then same with the team. You can see here, apart from the unassigned ones, who's running the most action. It seems like the front end and back end teams are running a lot together, and then the other teams are also running some. And the way you know that simply is when I run an action. Let me just show you, for example, if I was to run create S3 bucket, I'm just going to show you the JSON. You can see here in the user form, we're getting the email. So that means that if I run an action, we know that I was the one who ran the action. Now, let's just go to the builder. So when I ran an action, port knows that I was the one who ran the action. And I am a user. But as a user, I am part of a team and I am part of a group, which are related to me. And then you can make that logic more complicated. You can say that a team is part of a department. It can be part of a subsidiary, whatever makes sense. But the idea here is because it knows I'm a user, whatever my user is related to, I'm going to be able to get that information. And then from there you can do practically anything. So if we go back to what we have now, I can also see the actions specifically for my teams. And it could be my team's runs, or it could be my group's runs, or it could be my departments, whatever makes sense to you. And here you can see, okay, these are the latest actions that were run by my team. I see one is still in progress. I'm wondering what that is. And and if I click on that specific run as well, I can see, sorry, on that specific action, I can see how the runs have fluctuated over time, the description of that action, the overall failure rate, and all the information that you had before. I can see that some of them actually, well, one of them actually got declined, and I can see the latest runs. And if I just go back to it, um, because this dashboard is dynamic, I can see here over time the runs that and the status that happened. So mostly in success, but I can see that recently there it seems like we've added approval because there was nothing here and then suddenly waiting for approval. We can see that also the failure rate seems to have decreased. Um, and you can see also what my team specifically is running, which is not the same as on the high level dashboard what the company was running. So everything that you can do in Port, which is dynamic dashboards, if you sort of convert the action runs as blueprints, then you can do exactly the same as you do with everything else, which allows you then to have some pretty nice dashboard. And here I am connected as myself. Let me just show you the filter. So here, and the filter here is that the teams, user teams is a property of the action, has any of my teams. So that means it's dynamic. And if I log in, I log on to that page, I will see the actions of my teams. If someone else from another team logs on, they have access to the same page, but they see the actions of their team, which is relevant to them. Right. Now, let's just take now let's just now look at what you can do if this setup is still not enough. The thing is, I know where my dashboards are and I know where to go. But the thing is now I might actually want I might actually have some users who are just here and they have questions, but they don't really know where to look for it or they don't want to. And this is where we also have brought the assistant. So Actions Assistant here is just one implementation of the AI. So that's just the AI assistant with access to the actions blueprints. And I can just either, use some of these preset questions. So what action ran the most this week? What is the top action? What's the category of actions with its top savings? Or I could also like ask my own questions. So what are the savings for each actions uh, specifically? And then it will think for a bit because it does have to think about it. It's creating a plan. And now it can tell me, so, okay, here are the savings for each action. For generate API keys, it was this. Cycle time, it was that, and so on. It keeps asking the same thing uh, for each action. Or I could ask the same question about like categories. I can also ask what are the failure rates for each action and so on. So um, you can play with that as well when you have access to the environment. But the idea is if you have the information, then the agent also has the information. And just so you know, so you can see 33% and so on. Just so you know, this is how the AI agent is set up. If I go into AI agent, I have created one agent called Actions Assistant. The setup new agent, Action Agent, does the same as you saw me do manually when I was running the self-service action, except if you have that set up, then you can create it through Slack or by just talking to the agent. But the Actions Assistant, this one, is the one that is actually responding to my queries. And the way it is responding to my queries, if I just go there, is that I have allowed the action blueprints, the action run, the action categories blueprints. I also have allowed it to have access to user and team. So I can ask questions like what are the actions run by the front end team and things like that. Okay. I see that someone has a question. Let me see. I think there's a Q&A chat that you should be able to use. Yeah, I don't really see anything, but if you want to ask a question, you should have a Q&A chat that you're able to post your question in, and I'll just take it at the end and reply to the questions. It should be available on the webinar chat. Yeah. All right, so now that I showed you how it looks like, I just really want to get into details because I know some of you are going to come out of this and think, okay, that's great, but how do I install it on my environment? So two options. The easy one, connect to here, um, copy everything, connect to the repo, copy everything. We can start with that, and then I will actually explain to you how everything works behind the scenes. So if you simply want to just recreate it, maybe you have a deadline and you need to know what your numbers are very quickly, that's fine. Just go on there, click on option 2, and here you have the setup instructions. But basically what it says is you just go here in the builder, you take the action blueprint, you go into JSON here, then Control A, you copy it, and then you paste it in your environment. You do the same thing with action run and the other one. Okay, so action categories, and action runs. You can just copy these from the JSON. And then once you've done that, you can come here in the self-service action, subtab new action experience. You technically can just copy paste it if it's easier. But really, all you need is to make sure that you give the title, category, lead time, cycle time as inputs. But of course, you can just copy paste it. And then the important thing is when you set it up, you will have a backend, and that backend is run GitHub workflows. So here you put the organization of where you would have cloned the code, and here you just put the actual workflow file. And to get that, all you need to do is you go here on the actions experience. Again, you have the instructions. So you clone that repo on your own environment, and then you create an environment variable for your client ID, client secrets, and then that's it really. You just need to make sure that you refer to that file properly. And once you've done that, you have it. You have the same as I currently have. And then you can just go and create widgets. In my case, because I have widgets that are team specific, you need to make sure that your user has a team and your team has a group or things like that. And you can also adapt it. Now, for those of you who actually want to know how it actually works, I'm going to show you in a lot more detail. So now let's just take it from the beginning. So what happens when I click on that setup new action experience? So I give it a title, I give it a category, I give it some ROI, right? What happens then? Um, it runs this workflow, which you'll see here. And that workflow will run several scripts. And by the way, you can, once you have a run ID, you can use you can use the port API to make sure that your run gets updates. That's why I was getting logs, like that's why I was getting logs here, because I use the run ID and the post API. Um, so you then have your action that will take the parameters that you have given it. So title, category, lead time before cycle time, port context. That one is kind of by default. And then it will do several things. So first it will check if the action exists. So let me just go to the script, because this is what it will call. It will first check if the action exists. If it does, it won't do anything. If it doesn't, then it will create it through API. Sorry, this action actually. Then it will create the entity, which is what you have that contains the data of how long it used to take to run that action, what are the categories, and so on. And then it will run a port automation, which is kind of the critical component that makes that whole thing work automatically. And all of these will call the port API, which is why if you want to set it up very fast, you can copy paste it. If you have some other ways to call the port API, then you can get inspiration from that and just create it your usual way. Um, and so if you go into the builder, the action blueprint um, just looks like it has a lot of parameters. But the parameters that we fill at the beginning are the lead time before, cycle time before, description, category, and maybe owning. All of the other properties that you see here are all calculated or aggregated. So calculation, for example, the average waiting time, this one is just converting it from seconds to hours. Daily failure rate, that's just how many failure over how many, okay, I can show you. It's just how many failed runs over how many total runs. And by the way, now we have the AI calculators, so you can also generate a calculation like this. And the calculations only happen because we're first aggregating data. So you can see I have daily, failed runs, weekly, monthly, all time, all of this. And the reason I can do an aggregation is because my action itself is linked with an action run. So when an action gets triggered, the automation populates that data for the action run entity. So it creates a new action run entity and it will update it with the action that was run. It will update which user actually ran it, and then it will mirror the properties of the teams and the group of that specific user. And at each status change, it will then update the properties of waiting for approval, if that's relevant, duration, that would be the total duration, and cycle time. So these numbers that we're looking at on the dashboards, they actually start at the action run level and then they get aggregated to the action and then so on to the higher and higher level. And the way this is populated, if we go into automations, when I run my self-service action here, it automatically creates an automation for the action. So here I ran it for my new action, so it's created an automation for that. And what it means is whenever the action run changed of my new action, then a new entity is created like this, and it's just pre-populating the data with the changes that are happening on this action. So it's calculating duration, cycle time, and if the required approval was true, then it's also calculating the amount of time that you want to wait. So once you understand that, what you can do is go into the action run, and you can add some properties, whatever would make sense to you. So cycle time, lead time, waiting for approval. This is what I went for, but let's say you have at the end you will have a status which you already have here, which will be success, failure, in progress, waiting for approval, and then if you approve it, it will run, but it can also be denied if you don't approve it. So at the action level, you can also just add another property, and let's call it like let's do an aggregation, and you could do something like total runs denied, if approval is something that you're trying to track. And then here on each of the action run, you could count how many runs you had with a specific filter, and in that case, the filter would be that the status was equal to denied. Okay, so what you see here is just a starting point. If you really understand the concept, you can make it evolve and add the properties that make sense to you. All right, so this is the whole story. Hopefully that did make sense. Another thing just to keep in mind, on the ROI channel, sorry, on the ROI catalog page, I also have put see the survey results here. In the demo, it doesn't actually do anything, but it's just a reminder that numbers are important. Asking users how they're doing and how their experience is also matters a lot. All right, now let me check if you have any questions in the chat. And if you do, I will answer them. Yeah, you can have access to that port instance. Let me see actually if I can just give you the credentials now. Um, am I still sharing my screen? No. Okay, just give me a second. Action. Right, so this is how you can get access. I'm just typing it here. So yeah, you can just log on to the regular port URL, and then you just, if you use this user and password, you will be able to see things and copy things. You won't be able to break the environment. So you'll have access, but limited access. You'll still be able to copy what you need to. And if you have any difficulties, just ask your regular point of contact for anything else. Are there any other questions? Okay. Yeah, the URL is in the Q&A section. If you don't have it, ask your usual port contact, and they should be able to give you that information. But otherwise, it should be in the answered tab. Okay, great. So hope you'll now implement the actions ROI solution, so you can see how much savings you're getting in real time, and let us know how you're getting on. Thank you. Bye.